Hello, 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 everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is Viper Strike 95 Flight Sim, and today we're here for another one of our Friday game day flights. Today we're taking a little bit of a break from World Cup action here today. We're going to cover baseball's most famous rivalry in America, and not possibly the most famous rivalry in American sports, the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox. This iconic clash between two of baseball's biggest teams, two of the most historic teams in baseball. This legendary rivalry dates back to the 20th century, of course, and it features some of the greatest players to ever play for the sport. For the Yankees, you have guys like Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Mickey Mantle, Yogi Berra, to modern players like Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera, and Aaron Judge nowadays. And for the Red Sox, of course, you have Cy Young for the older days. You have Ted Williams, Carl Yastrzemski, Carlton Fisk. Of course, modern stars Pedro Martinez, David Ortiz, Kevin Youkilis, Mookie Betts played for the Red Sox, and many more. But without question, this is baseball's most famous rivalry, and this game has decided regular season title, division titles, AL pennants, and has postseason implications too. So, huge rivalry, massive sport, of course. Baseball is America's pastime, and this is the rivalry of America's pastime. Yankees Red Sox. So before we get started, I do want to say hello to everyone in the chat. Hello to all the lurkers and mods here too. I hope you're having a good week. We got lots of World Cup action to catch up to today. So we're in the Cessna 172 today. So we're going to fly the classic Cessna 172. So that is what we're going to take to fly here this morning, of course. And here's our flight plan, by the way. Here's our flight plan. So we'll start here at Monmouth Executive Airport. Then from Monmouth, we're going to make all the way up from Sandhook Bay. We'll cross over to the Atlantic. We'll fly over the Statue of Liberty. Then fly across downtown New York. And we'll reach Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, home of the New York Yankees. From there, we'll fly on the coast of Long Island Sound to New Haven, New Haven, Connecticut, home of Yale. We'll fly over Yale University in New Haven. Then we'll continue along and we'll make our first stop here at Groton, New London Airport. And Groton, New London Airport. Kilo Golf Oscar November. Then from there, we'll continue on east. We'll fly to Newport, Rhode Island, make our way up through Massachusetts, and we'll make our way over to Logan International Airport. We'll fly over Fenway Park, the home of the Red Sox, and make our way down to Logan International Airport in Boston. I'll also add a thing to Providence, Rhode Island, too. So that's going to be our flight plan, guys. Pretty simple flight plan. Pretty simple trip here. So let's go ahead and get this plane started. Thankfully, if you guys know, this is a Cessna 172. It is an easy plane to get up and going. So it shouldn't take very long, of course. So there she goes. There she goes. Okay, guys, we're finally getting ready to get going here. So we're going to fly at 19 degrees. And our altitude for this flight, actually 1,500 is the most we could. Let's fly 1,500 feet above sea level. So here we go. So we'll talk about Yankees, Red Sox as soon as we get into the air, of course. And we're up. Nice. So now we're up in the air. We're going to talk a little about the Yankees Red Sox rivalry as we make our way over to the Big Apple. We're going to go. I'm going to switch tanks to right tank. So we're going to go ahead and change tanks. So the Yankees Red Sox rivalry is baseball's most famous rivalry. Their first matchup was all the way back in 1903, and they both competed for over 120 seasons and may be considered to be the fiercest rivalry in American sports. Of course, this rivalry had a lot of history, of course, and it's often a heated subject of conversation around, especially around the Northeast United States. Until 2014, every MLB postseason featured one or both these teams since the wild card era in 1995. And they faced each other multiple times in the ALCS, as well as in division series and wildcard games. These two have been, of course, it's considered by many sports journalists as the single greatest rivalry in sports, at least here in the States, at least. There might be other rivalries maybe bigger, like El Clasico in Spain, Super Clasico in Argentina. But in American sports, this might just be the single biggest rivalry. And games between the two teams often generate considerable interest in media coverage, including brought on national television. And the games between the Yankees and Red Sox are some of the most watched baseball games each season. And outside of baseball, the rivalries led to violence between fans, along with potential from politicians and other athletes. But yes, the Yankees and Red Sox absolutely hate each other. They despise each other as living beings. They have actually met over 2,300 meetings, and the Yankees have pretty much been the more dominant of the two sides, especially in the regular season, with over 1,200 wins in the regular season. But in the postseason, it's been much closer between the Yankees and Red Sox. Only just one win splits the two teams apart. So pretty big stuff, of course. Tons of history between the Yankees and Red Sox. And Boston and New York have been rivals for years, not just in sports either. But the cities of Boston and New York City have been rivals ever since even before the American Revolution, as they were the because Boston was educational, cultural, artistic, and economic power, while New York was often looked down as the upstart to Boston, and over time, New York has now surpassed Boston. Of course, the history of it starts back in the early days, and in the early days, it was actually the Red Sox who were the bigger team in baseball than the Yankees. It wasn't always the Yankees been the dominant team in baseball. The Red Sox had a bit of their own era of dominance from 1901 to 1918, including the inaugural World Series in 1903, as well as 4 more between 1912 and 1918. Now, the Yankees themselves weren't even originally from New York. They were originally from Baltimore, but they moved to New York in 1903. And of course, the Red Sox won their very first ever meeting against the Yankees, which are then known as the Highlanders at the time. Of course, several major events happened during this time. On April 11, 1912, the Highlanders actually debuted their famous pinstripes in a game against Boston, by now known as the Red Sox. Of course, that becomes a major part of the Yankees uniform. And 9 days later, on April 20th, Boston opened the legendary Fenway Park, the home of the Red Sox, in a game against the Highlanders, who had left their old ballpark to play at the Polo Grounds. And afterwards, the team dropped the Highlanders in name of the Yankees. Of course, the Red Sox were the dominant team for that era. However, that became to soon change, as in 1916, of course, Broadway producer Harry Frazee has purchased the Red Sox for $500,000 on credit. He lost his patience with Ruth despite the lack of success, as Ruth threatened to hold out for a larger contract and became a distraction. And after the Red Sox finished sixth in 1919, Frazee needed money to finance a Broadway musical. However, Ruth was then sold to the Yankees in 1919 and sold him and received $125,000 with a loan of $300,000 secured for Fenway Park for Babe Ruth. Yeah, I wonder how that trade went. Yeah, basically what I'm saying, this is the most lopsided trade in all of sports history, it turns out. Because guess what? You know what Babe Ruth did in New York? Built their dynasty, of course. Helped build the seeds for their dynasty in the Big Apple. And the Red Sox got nothing out of it. They got 86 years of futility. 86 years without a World Series championship. When Ruth came into the Big Apple, of course, he launched the Yankees dynasty. He along with the rest of the lineup in the 20s, aka Murderers Row, that featured his right-hand man, Lou Gehrig, Tommy Lazzeri, Bob Musial, Earl Combs, and more. They became some of the most dominant teams in baseball history, reaching 7 times in Ruth's New York years and winning 4 of them. Hey, good to see you, Shaq. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well, my dude. We're covering the Yankees-Red Sox rivalry, but sorry about that. Here's a shot for you, my dude. Definitely check out your stream, of course. But yeah, the Ruth era absolutely dominated. And just 2 years after Ruth's infamous sale, Babe Ruth had one of the greatest years ever for a baseball player. Because guess what Babe Ruth did during that 1921 season? He had the single greatest season at the time of baseball. Because he had absolutely absurd numbers during his legendary 1921 season, just 2 years after his arrival in New York in 1921. He put an absolutely absurd 378, 59 home runs, and 168 runs batted in 1921. He was absolutely absurd. He had one of the greatest batting seasons of all time, and his wins above replacement was 12. He was 12 wins above your average player. Yeah, Babe Ruth during that time was something else. He absolutely became dominant and helped get the Yankees to their first pennant over the Red Sox. While the Boston Red Sox, on the other hand, suffered the curse of the Bambino, as they went 86 years without a World Series championship. Of course, in 1923, the Yankees moved across the Harlem River to the Bronx to open their brand new stadium, Yankee Stadium, which is one of baseball's most iconic cathedrals, of course. And during their first game against the Red Sox, they had over 70,000 people attend the game against the Boston Red Sox, which was a huge record at the time. And in the first game, Babe Ruth christened the stadium with the house that Ruth built. Now, of course, 1920s were dominated by the Yankees, of course. Now, several lesser-known moments of the rivalry occurred during the 30s. One which was that pitcher Red Ruffing was traded from the Red Sox to the Yankees in 1930, and he went on to have a Hall of Fame career with the Yankees after going back to the Red Sox. Yeah, kind of ironic that way, too. As well. Now, of course, but there wasn't so much drama in the 30s, obviously. The Yankees weren't quite nearly as good at the 30s as they were in the 20s. So, this rivalry wasn't nearly as known back in the old days. However, one thing would certainly change, of course. The 1940s. In 1941, the rivalry intensified when Ted Williams of the Boston Red Sox, he batted .406, which, by the way, is the last time a player hit over 400 in a regular season. The closest player since then to hit that mark was Tony Gwynn. was Tony Gwynn was the closest player to get to 400, and that was during, of course, during his iconic 1987 season when he hit 370, of course. But definitely an iconic player, of course. But yet, despite all that, he didn't even win MVP. That MVP belonged to none other than Yankees' Joe DiMaggio, who also had his own record for hitting streak. 56-game hitting streak, which is still a record to this day, of course. Of course, the Red Sox once won 15 games in a row in 1946 and were unstoppable. However, unfortunately for the Red Sox, they even made it to the World Series for the first time since 1918 with Babe Ruth. But of course, unfortunately for the Red Sox, they lost in 7 games to the St. Louis Cardinals in 1946. Very interesting season. So this is, of course, we're about to get closer to the Big Apple, obviously. Let's look outside. So here it is, guys. We can see the Big Apple in the distance. We're finally about to reach New York City. Good. Chili Rats, good to see you. So some people following along with us. Of course, the Yankees then had their dominant run in the 1940s and 50s. Joe McCarthy had a feud with the Yankees, so he left the Bronx Bombers, and they got in a brand new manager, Casey Stengel. And the Yankees became an absolutely dominant powerhouse during their time in the 50s, as they won 5 straight titles from 1949 to 1953, and they went on to win 14 pennants in 16 years from 1949 to 1964 under Casey Stengel. And those 50s Yankee teams were absolutely ridiculous. They got Yogi Berra, Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio, Phil Rizzuto, some absolutely incredible talents. Now, the 1960s, of course, was obviously the 1961 season with the home run record chase between Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle. And Maris and Mantle would continue the home run record until Mantle got injured, allowing Maris to break the record held by Babe Ruth. Of course, in 1967, led by Carl Yastrzemski, the Boston Red Sox managed to win their first pennant since 1946, and he won the Triple Crown. However, unfortunately for Red Sox fans, once again, heartbreak at the hands of the Cardinals again, as they would lose in 7 as well to the Cardinals. Of course, one very interesting year was in 1978, as the Red Sox once again and the Yankees had a massive battle for the AL East pennant. However, it was ultimately decided by the tiebreaker game known as the Bucky Dent game, when Yankees shortstop Bucky Dent hit a big 2-out, 3-run home run over the Brett Green monster to give them the lead, and eventually the Yankees closed it out to end the Red Sox season and put the Yankees closer to the World Series, as they went on to win their Century Championship in 1978 after the 77 run. However, the 80s and 90s saw the rivalry cool down significantly, as the Red Sox and Yankees were not as relevant this time around. Oddly enough, both the Red Sox and Yankees weren't even that relevant in the 80s and the early 90s, as none of the Red Sox nor Yankees were even major playoff contenders at the same time. Of course, for the Red Sox in 1986 was also the infamous World Series against the Mets. And of course, you all know about the Bill Buckner incident that happened in Game 6. With Bill Buckner, loud ball thrown through his leg, of course. And the Red Sox truly felt cursed because they lost Game 7. So, we have all. So this is New York City, guys. Welcome to the Big Apple. This is the biggest city here in the United States. It's the most populous city in the country. There are 5 different boroughs, by the way, in the Big Apple. So you have Manhattan, you have Brooklyn, you got Queens, you got the Bronx, I think that's 4 of the 5. And I think the 5th borough, I got 4 of the 5. Oh, in Staten Island. In Staten Island. So this here is the Statue of Liberty. There is, that was given to the United States by the French, by the way. If you guys did not know your U.S. history, the French gave the United States the Statue of Liberty. So here it is, guys. So here's the Big Apple, of course. So big stuff here, of course, with the Big Apple. We're going to visit Yankee Stadium here. Now, it's the new Yankee Stadium, by the way. Do not confuse it for the older one. That one's been torn down since 2009, of course. So getting back to the rivalry, of course. However, the mid-90s, the Yankees and Red Sox are back into relevancy again. However, they were seldom good in the early to mid-90s. But however, starting in 1996, of course, the Yankees returned back to being a dynasty, as they won their first World Series in 18 years, and it was the first of Wade Boggs' career, who left the Red Sox to join the Yankees. And of course, this was the beginning of the 90s Yankees dynasty, once again, as they won more World Series titles in 1998, which was one of the greatest seasons in baseball history, as the Yankees won 114 games and destroyed the Padres in 4. Then they won in 1999, as they managed to win another one in 1999, as they win another championship. And of course, for the first time in 1999, they faced each other off in the American League Championship Series for the first time ever. And this will start to be the peak of Red Sox Yankees was during their ALCS clashes. And of course, despite Red Sox fans, the Yankees won the World Series as they beat the Sox in the ALCS in 5 games. Of course, despite many of the schedules, they faced each other again in several more Championship Series games, including the 2003 ALCS, which it went all the way to 7. And unfortunately for Red Sox fans, it was Aaron Boone who ended their dreams as he hit a walk-off home run to send the Red Sox home. But thankfully for Red Sox fans, the Yankees couldn't win the World Series because, unfortunately for the Yankees fans, the Marlins won the championship. However, 2004 was going to be different this time around. That's because the 2004 ALCS, things may look the same, as the Yankees won their first 3 games of the American League Championship Series. However, this wasn't going to end being the same way it did as it did before. In the bottom of the ninth of Game 4, Mario Rivera was about to close out a lead. However, after a Kevin Morrow walk, Dave Roberts stole second, and then came around with an RBI single by Bill Mueller, and the Red Sox won at the bottom of the 12th thanks to David Ortiz. And that shifted the momentum of the entire ALCS. Game 5 also featured another Red Sox comeback in extra innings, and Ortiz once again won the game for them. Game 6 was the incredible performance by Curt Schilling. After tearing his tendon sheath in his right ankle, the Bloody Red Sox game happened as he struck out 7 innings of 1-run ball, giving the Red Sox the big Game 6 win. And finally for Game 7, the Boston Red Sox blew the Yankees out 10-3 to complete one of the greatest comebacks in sports history, down 3-0 in the series to come all the way back and win it all. And guess what? They got, not only did the Red Sox got to be in the World Series, Boston got to finally celebrate a World Series title, their very first since 1918, beating as they swept the Cardinals in 4 games. Completed an unbelievable dream season for Red Sox fans all over the world, all over America. The rivalry continues to progress, but this time it started to change as both the Yankees and Red Sox have won through 2005 to 2009. The Red Sox once again won the World Series in 2007, and the Yankees won again in 2009. So we're going to fly over Yankee Stadium. So guys, this here is Yankee Stadium, home of the Yankees, of course. Big home of the Yankees. Here it is for Yankees baseball. So here's Yankee Stadium, of course. Several more years. 2007 was the Veritek game. Hit 4 straight home runs off the Yankees to complete their first sweep of the Yankees in Fenway since 1990. In 2010, the Red Sox played spoilers, knocking the Yankees out of first place in 2010. The Red Sox won the World Series again in 2013, as they won another World Series. And the rivalry rebirthed again in 2017, as the Red Sox won the divisions and forcing the Yankees into the wild card game. But it didn't matter because both teams lost to the eventual champion, Houston Astros. Finally, for the last part about it, the 2020 season was shortened to 60 games, and the Yankees won 9 out of the 10 games against the Red Sox. 2021 saw the Red Sox win their first 7 meetings, as them and the Tampa Bay Rays battled for the American League East, and the Yankees for the wild card spot. However, the Yankees won 9 of the final 12 meetings, as Boston fell several games behind Tampa Bay. And finally, the Yankees and Sox met in the 2025 wildcard series, which the Yankees won the next 2 games after dropping their first game of the series. A lot to talk about this rivalry, of course. So I'm going to take a bit of a break here for a bit. My voice needs a bit of a break. So this is the Big Apple, guys. We're about to leave NYC behind, and we're now going to make our way over to New Haven, Connecticut. So, and our last slide for right now is outside of baseball. Of course, the Yankees and Red Sox have a very bitter rivalry, and it's not just inside baseball, but outside. Don Mattingly once had a public service announcement on Spike TV advocating fathers spend time with their children. However, he often jokes at the end of the commercial about the impatience of one of the characters by calling him a Red Sox fan. Apparently, one time in 2008, there's rumors of a construction worker burned a Red Sox jersey in the Yankee Stadium in order to try and curse the Yankees of all teams. To curse the New York Yankees, curse the stadium so the Yankees don't win anything. But that didn't work. One very interesting thing was in the 2002 Super Bowl when Tom Brady held their victory celebration. He said Yankees suck, and it became a fixture of Patriots Super Bowl rallies following their victories in the 2000s. Of course, and more importantly too, the rise between the Yankees and New York sports teams and Boston sports teams has been attributed to the Yankees-Red Sox rivalry. Still to this day, of course. So, pretty cool stuff. Like I said, this rivalry is a big deal for baseball, especially for its history, of course. So we'll take a quick break for a bit from the talking for a bit. So I hope you guys had a good week, though, by the way, everyone. I hope you all have a good week. I hope you all have good weeks, of course, and enjoying your time here with me in the chat. So we got some pretty big things going on this week to know about it. Our tomorrow's stream is going to be a firefighter journey from the Alps to the Adriatic coast, from Zurich to Venice, then Zurich, Venice over to Split in Croatia. Should be a really exciting trip tomorrow. And then Sunday is our National Park Series over Redwood National Park in Northwest California. We got two very exciting streams going ahead over the next 2 days, of course. So, pretty big stuff. In terms of the World Cup this past week, quite a bit of stuff of games happening over the past couple of days. So I'm going to start over from Wednesday's sort of games. So we've already got pretty much the round 32 already set up and all this sort of stuff. So in terms of third place teams, Czechia beat Mexico on Wednesday. So they won all 3 of their group games. But unbelievably, South Africa just beat South Korea. They claim second in the group, and they get to qualify for the round of 32 for the first knockout phases for the first time in history for South Africa, which is absolutely crazy. South Africa got to qualify for the knockout phase. Of course, South Korea could qualify if the rest of the third place matchups if the rest of the knockout group go in their favor, if the rest of the results. Then, of course, Bosnia and Herzegovina won. They qualify for the knockout phase, beating Qatar 3-1. And Switzerland wins their group over Canada. But Canada's still second, of course. Then in Group C, Morocco beats Haiti 4-2. And Brazil wins their group, beating Scotland, of course, 3-0. The Scots still have a chance, but it may not look very likely at all. So maybe the Scots might have their World Cup dreams ruined. Then yesterday, of course, was Group E. Ivory Coast beat Curacao. Big win for Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast got a pretty big win, of course. And they advanced to the round 32 for the first time in their World Cup history for the Ivory Coast. Huge win for their nation. Ecuador beat Germany, which was absolutely huge for Ecuador, and pretty much secured. It's pretty likely they'll get into the round of 32. Assuming everything stands, they'll be in the round of 32 for Ecuador. Massive win for them over Germany, of course. And then Group F, Sweden and Japan have draw, so Sweden's likely to qualify. Japan got second in the group, and Netherlands completely won their group. But Dutch were truly unstoppable. And finally, Group D, yesterday, Paraguay and Australia tied. And Turkey actually beat the U.S. Turkey actually won because the U.S. rested all their players, of course. 3-2 for the Turks. So Turkey gets to celebrate something, at least, from a very disappointing World Cup campaign. But I'm not that upset with it. And then today, we have some pretty crazy games today. Norway, France is going to be absolutely insane today. I think Senegal and Iraq. Then we have Group H with Cabo Verde in Saudi Arabia and Uruguay, Spain. I'm hoping, and I'm really do hoping that Cabo Verde win against Saudi Arabia. I want to see them in the round 32. They punched way above their weight in this year's World Cup. I would like to see them qualify. And then at 11 p.m., Egypt and Iran, and New Zealand, Belgium. It would be extremely disappointing if Belgium actually didn't qualify. That would be extremely embarrassing if that were to happen. For Group G, that would be extremely embarrassing for Belgium if they don't even qualify. That would be extremely embarrassing tonight. So here, guys, here is, we're going to fly even closer. This is Stanford. To our west is Stanford, Connecticut. So in terms of other flight sim news, there's been some pretty big news. The Fokker F7100 has been released. I'm looking forward to that one. I'll be getting it as soon as it hits Sim Market. I'll be grabbing it. The Falcon from Contrail is really cool. I heard a lot of good things about the Falcon FA50 from Contrail. It looks really good. If you love business jets, this would be a fantastic business jet. But that's not even the best news from yesterday. You know what the best news was? MS Siri is gone. The scammers are gone from the marketplace. Hallelujah. They're gone. They are banned. This was brand new. MS Siri in 2020 and 2024, they delisted an entire developer's whole catalog. It said a large number of complaints about areas, low quality, product descriptions lacked information, images that are misleading, and validity of its high user scores. But yes, it's gone. It's finally gone. We don't have to deal with them anymore. Big win for Microsoft. It's the best thing they did all year. So, really good news to hear. Really good news, of course. But yeah, I'm waiting. I can't not wait to fly that F70. So, we'll be making our way down pretty soon, of course. We'll be making our way to our first stop very shortly, of course. But we'll make our way to New Haven, of course. So in terms of other news, of course, some big other sports news, obviously. Some pretty big news, of course. So Austria, the Grand Prix for the Austrian Grand Prix is going to happen on Sunday. It's going to happen on June 28th, but is the Austrian Grand Prix. So we got the Austrian Grand Prix so far. So we got Austria next for the Formula One. So we'll be making our way very shortly. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the first team in our slide, the New York Yankees, the road team today. So the New York Yankees, the most famous team in all of baseball. The Yankees hail all the way from the Bronx, of course. They're one of two teams in Major League Baseball teams in New York City itself. The other being the newer New York Mets of the National League. And the team was founded back in 1903 when Frank Farrell and Dave Devery purchased the franchise rights from the defunct Baltimore Orioles, and they established the New York Highlanders before they were renamed 10 years later to what is now the Yankees. And they are arguably the most successful professional sports franchise in the United States. The Yankees have won 21 AL East division titles, 41 American League pennants, and 27 World Series championships, which are all baseball records, by the way, of Major League Baseball. And they've won more titles than any other franchise in the North American Sports League, though they did trail the Canadians from 1993 to 1999. So the Yankees are the most successful team in North American sports. Um, in addition, they have 52 players and 11 managers in the National Baseball Hall of Fame, which is more than any other team. And they feature some of the most iconic figures of the sport. Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, Yogi Berra, Whitey Ford. To more recent additions, Mariano Rivera and Derek Jeter. They're among the world's most valuable sports teams, as they're the 10th most valuable sports franchise in the world and the most valuable baseball franchise at $8.2 billion in value as of 2025. And it has enormous popularity and dedicated fan base, as well as widespread amenity from other teams. And of course, the team's iconic NY logo is a very famous symbol of both New York City and the United States. Oh yeah, and the Yankees have won over 10,000 games throughout their entire history. Yeah, we're going to begin with the Yankees, of course. The Midnight Navy Blue and White is the most famous in all of baseball. Can you even imagine? Their history is truly unique. What can I say? The Yankees are baseball's most famous team. Of course, the Yankees play at Yankee Stadium, the new Yankee Stadium we just visited. This new Yankee Stadium was opened back in 2009 to replace the original stadium that operated from 1923 to 2008, and incorporates many of the elements from the original Yankee Stadium, including its famous exterior and trademark frieze, as well as incorporating larger spaces and modern amenities. It has the 5th largest seating capacity among the 30 stadiums in baseball, as it can seat a pretty large 46,000 people, as well. Of course, it was built for $2.3 billion, making it one of the most expensive stadiums ever built. Yes, it's over $2 billion. It's now hosted 2 World Series so far. It's also been the home of the New York City FC and the MLS. And it will be the interim venue until Etihad Park will be built next year. And it's hosted plenty of other games, including college football games, unbelievably, concerts, and other events. But yeah, New Yankee Stadium is definitely very cool. Definitely a very interesting stadium. Lots of really neat things. It has very modern facilities. Very nice place to visit, of course. And it also has a propensity for home runs, apparently, especially with the short porch at right and left center field. Really cool stuff about the new Yankee Stadium. Of course, they played in 2 other previous grounds. Obviously, first one of the previous Yankees ballparks. The 2 other notable stadiums they played. First was the Polo Grounds, which they played from 1930 to 1913 to 1922. They played at the Polo Grounds. This ballpark originally opened all the way back in 1890, and it was the longtime home of both the New York Giants and the New York Giants from 1891 to 1957, and it was also the first home of the New York Mets from 1962 to 1963. And this ballpark was infamous for its interesting dimensions, for its odd dimensions. Its foul lines were on 258 and 279 feet, respectively, but center field can go at an absolutely whopping 483 feet beyond home plate. This made it a very tough place for outfielders, especially hitting the gaps. Now, honestly, after the Polo Grounds, the Yankees then moved to their longtime home, Yankee Stadium, the original one, the house that Ruth built. It hosted over 6,500 Yankee games throughout its entire 85-year history at the ballpark. But this stadium was truly unique at the time, and one of the most famous sports venues in the United States. Tons of World Series games, no-hitters, perfect games, historic home runs, boxing matches, the 1958 NFL Championship game, one of the most iconic American football games of all time, college football, and 3 people masses were held in the original Yankee Stadium. Of course, they renovated the place in the 1970s and continued on even more so with Monmouth Park. But the original Yankee Stadium is a true classic baseball stadium, if you could think of one. Absolutely incredible ballpark. If you ever think about that, too. Now, of course, the distinctions, there are 27 World Series championships, 41 appearances in the World Series, and 41 appearances, the most of any in baseball. To put that in perspective, there are 27 championships. Second place is the St. Louis Cardinals, and they've won 11 of them, with the last one in 2011. And the Dodgers are second in most World Series appearances with 22. The Yankees were put in so many World Series, they played against every independent winner except for the Astros, Rockies, and Nationals. The Astros now play in the American League, so that can never happen. The Rockies and the Nationals have never met. Which is absolutely insane, the fact the Yankees have won that many World Series championships. And the Yankees have the best winning percentage in Major League Baseball history. 10,872 wins to 8,200 losses. A 56%, nearly 57% win percentage. Which is just insane. And to top it all off, of course, the Yankees have had many historic nicknames. The Yanks are the original nicknames is the Yanks. It was written by Fred Lieb. He called them the Yanks and would fit in the heads better. However, the most prominently used nickname for the Yankees is the Bronx Bombers, a reference to their hometown in the Bronx and their prolific hitting. And it was first used in 1928, and it caught on to sports writers all across the country. A lot of really big stuff. Of course, the Yankees also have another nickname, lesser used, is the Pinstripes, is the lesser used nickname. Uniform. However, one derogatory nickname that gets caught into the Yankees, the Evil Empire. It's mainly caused by the Boston Red Sox president, Larry Lucino, called him the Evil Empire when they signed pitching prospect Jose Contreras. However, Yankee fans often refer to it as a badge of honor and enjoy playing the villain, of course. In terms of their uniforms, the Yankees feature one of the most iconic uniforms in sports. The classic pinstripes of the Yankees, their classic uniform, the NY on each breast, you see here, debuted all the way back in 1903. In 1903. And the current look, cap look, was adopted all the way back in 1932. Was the classic cap that you see everywhere in New York. And both the home and away uniforms have been unchanged since the 1920s and 40s, respectively. The white pinstripes, the blue with blue pinstripes with the classic NY badge has not been changed since the 20s. While the home uniform was still relatively the same. And all that. And the merchandise with the Yankees logo, especially their caps, is popular worldwide, including countries where baseball isn't even very popular. That's right, you can see caps. I've seen caps in real life, Yankees caps in Europe, of all places. Yeah, that's how notable the Yankees are, that they even influence countries outside of the United States. Speaking of which, the fan support of the Yankees has always been known. Now, in terms of this, we're going to take a bit of a break for a bit. Just chill out for. So here's New Haven, Connecticut. We should see Yale coming up soon, Yale University here in Connecticut. So big stuff. So here's New Haven. So yeah, here's Yale. Here's down over here below us is the Yale Bowl, home of Yale football. This was the classic college football stadium of the old days. And here is downtown New Haven. We should be saying Yale. So here's New Haven, of course. So here we go. So we're going to head down this way. So we're going to continue on this way for the next 40 more nautical miles. So we're about to reach things much closer, of course. In terms of other stuff this week, of course, on Friday, for the rest of the community, Murphy will be back on in Scotland, flying the Flying Fires. Gabriel, over Scotland, should be a really nice flight. I think Allison's going to be back on Allison's going to be back for another one of her historical recreation flight. She'll be doing her flying for Ellie Linehorn. She'll be doing from she'll be flying through British India, starting from northern India and making her way down to Victor Echo Bravo Alpha, from Victor Echo Alpha Bravo to Victor Echo Bravo Alpha. So, making our way through it. So yeah, we can see some of the landscape out here of the Connecticut landscape here in Connecticut. Hmm. But yeah, already qualified for the knockout stage for the World Cup. Ecuador and Sweden have already qualified, and so is Bosnia. We know that France and Norway are qualified, and so is Colombia. So the question will ultimately be, but yeah, lots going to go on Friday and Saturday is going to be all the games. So we'll determine who's who, and then the World Cup can truly begin with the knockout rounds the 29th. Um, July 3rd, it's going to be one of these games, of course, for July 3rd, the round 32. And then the round 16. It's going to be one of the round 16 games going to be on Saturday, of course. So I'll figure out which one's going to be the round 16. In terms of Yankees, of course, for their supporters, hey, Super Typhoon, no worries. The New York Yankees have had, as of course, with one of their most popular teams in the world since their success in the 20s, the Yankees have been one of the most popular teams across the world, with their fan base coming much further than the New York metro area. They usually bring an upsurge in attendance in almost all or most of their various road trip venues, drawing crowds from their own fans as well as hometown fans whose interest is heightened when the Yankees come to town. And the Yankees have also been one of the most consistently attended MLB games. After all, the first million fan season in Major League Baseball's history was in 1920, when 1.2 million fans attended Yankee games at the Polo Grounds. And the Yankees have had some of the strongest attendance in Major League Baseball over the past history. Some Yankee fans, super fans, have become notable in their own right. One of them, of course, was Freddie Schumann. Freddie says, and for over 50 years, he came to Yankee games with his own cap, Yankees jersey, which bears his own name, and a cape paint with a shamrock paint on it, which encourages for the home team. And unfortunately, passed away in 2010 at 85, but he has been a major fan for the Yankees as well. Of course, there's other group of fans, including the Breacher Creatures as well, and the Judges Chambers, which is its own fans too. Of course, with the Yankees being so popular, many other teams did not like the Yankees. And it's because, of course, the Yankees are so successful historically. It's caused a lot of hatred for them, obviously, and animosity. Now, in terms of their rivalries, of course, we all know their Boston Red Sox rivalries, but of course, a team as big and famous as the Yankees has had several other major rivalries. One of which is the Cleveland Guardians, which had developed back in the 20s when Cleveland shortstop Ray Chapman died on the field after Yankees pitcher Carl Mays hit him in the head with a fastball. And Cleveland would rally around their incident, win the title in 1920. But the Yankees' dynastic run between 1921 and 64 prevented Cleveland from attaining even further success other than a World Series title in 1948 in several winning seasons. But there's a lot of animosity between Cleveland fans and New York Yankee fans as well. And of course, it grew just as big both in the 70s and especially in the 90s and 2000s, where especially this rivalry became big in the playoffs. Of course, the Dodgers are one of the big interleague rivalries. For interleague is the Dodgers. In fact, the Dodgers and Yankees have met more times in the World Series than any other combination of two teams. They met 12 times in the World Series. And it became a part when it has been around since the days the Dodgers were in Brooklyn in their own Subway Series in the 1940s and 50s. And guess what? The rivalry still continued even after the Dodgers moved to Los Angeles in 1958. As the two teams represented two of the largest cities on each coast, and when you combine that with the massive fan support these two teams have, these two led to some very bitter rivalries. And even though its significance arose from the two teams' numerous series, the Yankees and Dodgers did not meet in the World Series between 1981 and 2024. They didn't play each other again in a non-exhibition game until 2004, and of course, they met again in the World Series in 2024. And the Dodgers won that series in 5 games, but Dodgers and Yankees have always had a very interesting crosstown rivalry. Then you have the Mets. Of course, the Subway Series is the main interleague series. The Yankees and Mets have played. It's their main interleague rival is the Mets, of course. And they even met in the World Series back in 1999. It was in 2000 between the Yankees and Mets, though the Yankees beat the Mets in 5 games. But they play all the time. But they play interleague every year between the two, and it's always interesting to see the Yankees and Mets go at it. And their last major rival is the San Francisco Giants, because just like with the Dodgers, the Yankees and Giants have met plenty of times in the World Series. 1921, 22, 23, 30, 1936, 37, 1951, and 1962. 7 World Series between the two. But the Yankees win 5 of the last 7 World Series between the two teams. And they face each other off again plenty of times. In interleague play, but definitely a very historic rivalry too. So that concludes a bit about the rivalries with the New York Yankees. Tons of rivalries with them, and tons of interesting matchups between the two franchises. So in terms of the Yankees icons, where do I even begin with icons? I could list all the other players I could have picked, but no, if I'm being serious though, when you talk about New York Yankee icons and legends, there's only one person I wanted to put him on the first, and possibly the most important guy in all of this scenario, in all of his game day flights. We have to talk about Babe Ruth. He's born on the same day I was, in February 6th. He actually played as a pitcher for the Red Sox originally, from 1914 to 1990, and of course, he was also the main piece of the Curse of the Bambino when he was traded from the Red Sox to the Yankees for $125,000. And Babe Ruth became the most dominant hitter in baseball, if not one of the greatest baseball players of all time. Career .342 hitter, 714 home runs, almost 2,900 hits, 2,200 RBIs, and of course he was even a really good pitcher. He almost won 100 games as a pitcher during his early part of his career. And what can I say? 2-time All-Star, 7-time World Series champion. He won an MVP in 1923, 12-time AL home run leader, 6-time AL RBI leader. His number 3 is proudly retired. And he's part of Major League Baseball's all-century and all-time team in baseball. And he's also one of the original members of the Pro Baseball Hall of Fame in 1936. But his impact on baseball was not just big on the field either. Babe Ruth was absolutely massive off the diamond as well. In fact, Babe Ruth was exactly what the sport needed after the Black Sox incident, because he brought people back to baseball and brought popularity back to the sport that it really needed. Babe Ruth was that person. Babe Ruth changed baseball and changed it for the better. Of course, definitely one of the most iconic people of the sport. Outside of Babe Ruth, we have to talk about his longtime teammate, Lou Gehrig. Now, unlike Babe Ruth, who hailed all the way from Baltimore, Lou Gehrig was a born and bred New Yorker. Born in 1903 in Manhattan, he played all 17 seasons for the Yankees, but he was legendary for both his prowess as a hit machine, but also his durabilities, one of his greatest traits, the Iron Horse. Lou Gehrig, 7-time All-Star, Triple Crown winner, and twice been the AL MVP. He's won 6 World Series. Of course, he had his consecutive game streak, 2,103 consecutive games, which lasted all the way for 56 years until Cal Ripken Jr. broke the record in 1995. Of course, unfortunately for Gehrig, he passed away really early. It was because, of course, he passed away from ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which was incurable at the time. And he retired at age 36, and he passed away in June 2nd, 1941. And during one of his last moments, he did his famous speech, "The Luckiest Man on the Face of the Earth" speech. And unfortunately, he passed away far too young to see Lou Gehrig. But despite that, though, incredible player and incredible person too. His high integrity and character. That's why he has the Lou Gehrig Memorial Award too. Legendary player and a legendary icon of the sport. Then, of course, after that, we have the 1950s hitter Mickey Mantle, hailed all the way from Oklahoma, the Commerce Comet, hailed from Oklahoma, one of baseball's most devastating hitters, being a switch hitting machine, a 3-time MVP, a massive 20-time All-Star, 7-time World Series champion, part of the MLB's All-Century team as well. He also was a sports commentator as well. However, he had a lot of issues with alcoholism, and he became sober ever since. Passed away in 1995 at 63 years old, but the guy was a hitting machine. He could have been even more successful had injuries. If injuries didn't take as much of a toll on him throughout his career. But Mickey Mantle's had an absolutely insane legacy too. Then, of course, you have Joe DiMaggio. You guys all probably be aware about Mr. DiMaggio. He had the 56-game hitting streak back in 1941, but the dude was also a 3-time AL MVP winner, 9-time World Series champion, 13-time All-Star. He won the batting champion title twice. And of course, a lot of people know him, normal people know him for his marriage with Marilyn Monroe. But really incredible player though too. He also had a marriage with Dorothy Arnold as well. But DiMaggio definitely is one of the great icons. Then you obviously have Yogi Berra. You gotta talk about good old Yogi, of course, one of baseball's greatest catchers. Mr. Yogi Berra played all 19 seasons, and he's won more World Series than any other player. He's won 10 of them. And he also was part of the U.S. military too, as a gunner's mate during World War II. But Mr. Berra but he also won not just as a player, but a manager too. Because the dude also won 3 more championships as a manager, including winning a World Series champion as a coach for the Mets and Yankees. But yes, he's definitely an icon. Other notable legends I will also include here include legendary pitcher Whitey Ford. You have the greatest closer in baseball history, Mariano Rivera, who, fun fact, is the only player to ever be voted into the Hall of Fame unanimously. Yes, you heard right. Unanimously. And Jared Jeter, one of the most biggest icons of the sport in the modern day, Derek Jeter. And finally, the main star, Aaron Judge, who's the biggest star on the Yankees right now. So, and there are tons of other legends too, but I won't include. But we don't put on the list. Ah, yeah, where do I even begin with that? So yeah, that's the Yankees, everyone. Yeah, we're about to arrive at our airport, guys. Oh, we're right here on time. So we're about to make our first stop here. We're making pretty good time, guys. Thankfully, Lake 2 is going to be a bit shorter, so I hope you guys enjoyed the information stuff I provided. Mm. So yeah, that's the New York Yankees. Here we go. We made it to our first stop. So here, guys, we're going to Groton. So we'll stop here for just a few minutes. So here we go, guys. We're going to get ready to get going. So let's go ahead and get going here for the next leg, of course. All right, guys, let's go ahead and make our way to. So here we go, guys. We're ready to make our way down to Boston, our last stop of the day for the Yankees Red Sox rivalry. So here we go, guys. We're about to make the flight up to. So here we go, guys. We're about to make our way into Rhode Island, of course. We're gonna cross into the smallest state in the one of the smallest states in the United States, Rhode Island. So we're gonna climb up to 1,500 feet for this one. I tend to watch about 3 streams at a time, so getting ready for this as well. So here we go. Gotta climb our way up. As for the next game day flights, the rest is going to be World Cup matches. Um, it's going to be the 3 next games in the series are all going to be World Cup matches, and that's because it will be World Cup round 16, the quarterfinals, and the World Cup finals are going to be the next couple weeks of streams. So it's gonna be that. It's gonna be the next stream. So we're gonna be covering all of the World Cup here for the next several streams, of course. So I'm looking forward to all of this with you guys. Moving forward. So we're finally at 1,500 feet above sea level, so we can finally start talking about the Boston Red Sox. So let's go ahead and cover the Red Sox here in this chat. The Red Sox, hailing all the way from Boston, Massachusetts. Founded in 1901 as one of the 8 charred franchises of the American League. The team's home ballpark has been the iconic Fenway Park since 1912, the oldest stadium in Major League Baseball. And they're one of baseball's most successful teams, winning 9 World Series championships, which is tied third most, and has played in 13 World Series, with their most recent appearance and win in 2018. They also won the 1904 American League pennant, but they couldn't defend it when the Giants refused to participate in next year's World Series. And they were actually, at first, the dominant team in the American League, as they won 5 championships between 1903 and 1918. However, then they had to suffer 86 years of drought due to the curse of Bambino, and ended it in 2004. But that being said, it's one of baseball's most iconic teams in baseball as well. And of course, their rivalry with the Yankees is the most fierce in baseball. They're currently owned by the Fenway Sports Group, who now also owns Liverpool FC of England, the NHL's Pittsburgh Penguins, and partially owns RFK Racing of NASCAR. And they're consistently one of the top teams in road attendance in baseball, but the small capacity of Fenway Park prevents them from leading overall attendance. But that being said, they had a 10-year stretch. They sold every home game 820 straight games, which is a professional sports record. And the Red Sox have won over 10,000 games and 9,000 losses. 51% winning percentage. But yes, the Red Sox are one of baseball's most famous teams, of course. And a very historic team in that one, too. So, in terms of the next thing as well, they play the historic Fenway Park, which I've been to myself. Fenway is baseball's oldest stadium currently, since 1912. It was also rebuilt in 1934 and renovations in the 21st century. It's the oldest active ballpark in the league. The next oldest is Wrigley, which is actually back in 2 years after Fenway in 1914. And then the third oldest is, unbelievably, is actually Dodger Stadium, which is the third oldest, from 1962. Because of its age and restricted location, the park is very famous for its unique features, the triangle, Pesky's pole, and the green monster in left field. Due to this, it's also the 5th smallest ballpark, as it can only seat 37,000 people, and it's one of only 9 that can't accommodate 40,000 people. Now, the smallest capacity officially is the Athletics, but they're temporarily playing at Sutter Heath. The smallest capacity is Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg. But this ballpark is also part of the U.S. National Register of Historic Places. as well. And in addition to hosting the Red Sox, it's hosted other teams that played here in Fenway, including the NFL's Boston Redskins, who are now Washington Commanders, and the Boston Patriots of the AFL. And it's even hosted its own bowl game, too. But yeah, Fenway Park, rich in character, and is used so much more so nowadays. But yeah, so many unique features. The most famous feature in Fenway Park is, of course, the left field green monster. It's the most famous feature of the park. This is a 37-foot tall wall in left field, between 310 to 315 feet from home plate, which benefits right-handed hitters, but you have to get over the 30-foot wall to get up there. The scoreboard down below is manually operated, one of the very few manual operated scoreboards still left in baseball. As well. Then you have center field, which is known as the triangle. And then, of course, Pesky's pole in right field, which is the shortest in Major League Baseball, 302 feet. It's called Pesky's pole. And home runs hit in this area are kind of rare, thanks to the fence curving away from the foul pole sharply. But like I said, very famous ballpark, rich in features and stuff. If you're a baseball fan, you need to make a trip at least once to visit Fenway. If you can't go to a game, take the tour, because trust me, you learn so much about Fenway Park and all that. It's a great stadium, and as a baseball fan, you definitely want to go there. In terms of the logos and uniforms, the logos and uniforms of the Red Sox have been through pretty similarly through limited number of changes. For example, their home road uniforms were originally of a Red Sox and then a Boston, but eventually the next year was Boston and Red Sox. That was around from 1903 to 1935, and the current uniform is white with red piping around the neck and Red Sox and red letters in blue. And in the current version, it's ornate lettering that's been used since 1936, but it's gone through changes throughout the 70s. Now, the road uniform, the current logo and cap set, has actually been used since 1946, but the road uniform has gone through several minor changes. But again, it's been pretty similar. And the Red Sox have worn several alternate uniforms, but of course their cap is also pretty famous. Navy cap with a red B and the Western lettering, resembling that of the old Boston B logo from the 30s, as well as the Brooklyn Dodgers logo. And it's been the Red Sox standard for pretty much the majority of its existence, has been their cap logo. But like the Yankees, not too many changes, of course. Not any radical changes. To be fair, I don't think they even need radical changes for the Red Sox. And finally, for the last slide about the Red Sox, their icons. And the biggest icon the Red Sox have ever had as a franchise, of course, is none other than Ted Williams. He's the greatest player in Red Sox history. Ted Williams, baby. All 19 seasons for the Red Sox. Of course, not only did he have an extensive history with the Red Sox, I think some of you guys know he was also involved in the military. He didn't just fight in World War II, he also fought in Korea as well for his military career. But as a baseball player, he may just be one of the greatest hitters we've ever seen. And Lord knows how many hits and home runs and RBIs he would have had he not been in the military. But even without it, the dude is a 344 batting average, 2,600 hits, over 500 home runs, 1,800 RBIs, a two-time MVP, two-time Triple Crown winner, 6-time batting champion, an impressive 19-time All-Star, and he's Major League Baseball, part of MLB's All-Baseball team. As well. And of course, in addition to all of these things and being part of the Pro Baseball Hall of Fame in 1966, he was also awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1991, the highest civilian honor award bestowed by the U.S. government. Yeah, the dude is decorated. The only thing he's missing was a World Series championship because, the Red Sox were cursed. Outside Ted Williams, another Boston legend is Carl Yastrzemski. Carl Yastrzemski, of course, another beloved Red Sox icon. Played 18 All-Stars with the 1967 AL MVP and Triple Crown winner. He was the last Triple Crown winner until Miguel Cabrera did so in 2012. But Yaz, legendary player, of course, incredible hitter. He's also a 7-time Gold Glove winner, and he also hit over 3,000 hits. In fact, he was the first American League player to ever hit 3,000 hits to join the 3,000 hit club. To also accumulate over 400 home runs. And still to this day, he's still the Red Sox leader all time in RBIs, runs, hits, singles, doubles, total bases, and games played. And third in home runs. But yeah, Yaz is one of the greatest players in Red Sox history. Absolutely a club baseball team legend. Hey, Scott Command, good to see you, my dude. Oh yeah, you live there. Boston's a really cool city. Very underrated, by the way, Scott Command. Sorry if I wasn't paying attention. I was reading the information I was presented to you guys. This is Newport. Beautiful city. If you guys have never been to Newport. Absolutely gorgeous city, of course. I've never been here, but I heard a lot of great things about Newport. Yeah, it's so underrated. Like I know a lot of people like to visit New York because of all the history and stuff too, but Boston's just rich in history. I mean, where do you go? Like I enjoyed the Freedom Trail was so cool. Like Boston's like a mix of old and new, and that makes it such a really neat city to visit. Boston's so cool. Very, very underrated place. And we enjoyed both our times in Boston. It's a great city. It's a northeastern city. I wouldn't mind actually living. Unbelievably, it's actually quite nice. But yeah, good to see you, Scott. Come in. We were talking about the Red Sox, of course. We're doing our Game Day Flight Series with the Yankees and Red Sox, the most famous rivalry in baseball, if not in American sports. So here's the town of Newport, very historic country here in New England. Lots of rich mansions, of course, here in this city. Yeah, the Red Sox, though, are not doing so well this year, though. They've been absolutely terrible. Then, of course, you have the winningest player in baseball history, Cy Young. Is Cy Young. He also played for a bunch of other teams, including the Cleveland Spiders, the St. Louis Cardinals. But Cy Young is baseball's all-time leading wins leader. He's won over 500 games, 315 losses, 2,800 strikeouts, and an ERA 2.63. One of the most iconic pitchers of his era. He won the pitching Triple Crown in 1901. Helped win the Red Sox their original World Series, of course, and pitched 3 no-hitters. And he's held many MLB records, including career wins, and he's pitched with over 7,300 innings pitched. 815 games career started, 749 complete games, and 25 and a third consecutive hitless innings pitched. Yeah, those are all records that will probably never even be broken by anyone today. And I'm actually serious with this. No one's breaking that record. Not bad for a guy from... And of course, he is obviously the namesake of the Cy Young Award. And he's he's actually in the second Hall of Fame class in 1937. Then, of course, another Red Sox legend, Carlton Fisk. Definitely one of the biggest icons of the Boston Red Sox, Carlton Fisk, the legendary catcher. But he didn't actually start his career at Boston. He actually started his career in. He actually played for most of his career in Chicago, but he played for a lot of his years in Boston, including his earlier years as a Red Sox. He went to 11 All-Star games during his time in Boston. Big part of the AL Rookie Year 1972, 3 times Slugger Award, all with the White Sox. And he's retired by both the Boston Red Sox and the Chicago White Sox, and went to the Hall of Fame in 2000. But he's a legendary catcher. He once held the most records all times for a catcher, and he's held several age and longevity records for a catcher. And of course, he was an 11-time All-Star too. But of course, everyone probably knows his most famous moment is, of course, in the 1975 World Series when he did his legendary home run, the balls that struck the foul pole, before he went baseball's greatest moments. But Fisk, unbelievable catcher too, and a club legend. Then of course you have the modern day Red Sox legend of David Ortiz, Big Papi as they call him, possibly the greatest designated hitter in the history of baseball, Big Papi. And this was the guy who helped change the fortunes of the Red Sox franchise. He was crucial, winning 3 of their World Series of their 4 championships during the modern days. 10-time All-Star. He won ALCS MVP in 2004, 7-time Silver Slugger. He hit over 500 home runs as a designated hitter, 286 batting average, and 2,400 hits. But yeah, Big Papi, absolutely beloved by Red Sox fans. And a massive legacy for Boston, of course. But yeah, one of the greatest clutch hitters in baseball history, though, too. Incredible hitter. Then, of course, Pedro Martinez is Pedro Martinez himself. Of course, he started his career in both Los Angeles and Montreal, but the peak of Pedro was during his time as a Red Sox. And for a 7-year stretch, he was the most dominant player in baseball. 1998, he was absolutely ridiculous. But one of the greatest years ever was 1999, maybe one of the greatest years ever for a pitcher. 23 wins and 4 losses, barely above 2 ERA and 313 strikeouts. He was ridiculous. He's absolutely ridiculous. He was absolutely nuts, and he almost got to be MVP in 1999. He should have actually won it. But Pedro Martinez as well. But Pedro Martinez was absolutely ridiculous. He was a big part in helping the Red Sox finally win a World Series championship in 2004. But 3-time Cy Young winner, Pedro was amazing, of course. Then you also have guys like Joe Cronin, the incredible hitting Wade Boggs. And that concludes the slides for today's flight. So that's it. That is the Boston Red Sox we're talking about here today. So I hope you guys like the slides. So in terms of other things about baseball, in terms of the 3,000 hit club, there are only 33 batters in Major League Baseball history that have actually gotten 3,000. The first player to ever reach the 3,000 hit club was Cap Anson back in 1897. Was the first player to ever hit 3,000 hits. However, there have been only 33 other players. Then the next player to hit it was Honus Wagner. Then Nat Latchley, Ty Cobb in 1921, the first, and then you also have Tris Speaker. Tris Speaker did it as well. But you have so many iconic players. The most recent to hit 3,000 is Miguel Cabrera. According to Baseball Reference, all-time looking at hits, I need to look among active players. So in terms of active players, the current leader in active hits is Freddie Freeman. So he could potentially be next to join the 3,000 hit club. He's the closest to do it. Then Jose Altuve, Andrew McCutchen, and then Paul Goldschmidt. I say Freeman's the only one to get to that 3,000 hit mark. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I think a lot more people are trying to get home runs nowadays, not so much about high batting averages. I'd say the one that has the most likely chance to get 3,000 probably is not happening anytime soon. So here's Providence, Rhode Island. This is the largest city and capital of Rhode Island, Providence. So here we go, guys. Providence, Rhode Island. So we're going to go ahead and turn right. So here we go. And now we're going to make our way over to Boston. So we're going to go ahead and make our way down to Boston, of course. And yes, I got a Boston t-shirt on as well. Not a Red Sox fan, but I got it as a souvenir during my time in Boston. So, got Boston representative. That's why I wanted to wear the shirt today. Gotta wear it. So, Boston is going to come up soon. Now, if you guys don't know about the city of Boston, It's the capital and most populous city in Massachusetts. It is the cultural financial center of New England. Population 675,000 in its main city, but its metro is at a whopping 4.9 million people, making it the largest metro in New England. And this is a very old city too. Founded in 1630 by Puritan settlers who named the city after Boston, Lincolnshire, in England. And of course, Boston was a major part during the American Revolution and the Revolutionary War, thanks to several major events happening in the city. The Boston Massacre in 1770, the Boston Tea Party in 1773, Paul Revere's Midnight Ride, the Battle of Bunker Hill, and the Siege of Boston. And still, even today, it's still playing a major role of many firsts in the nation: public park, public school, and subway system. And nowadays, it's mainly as a global leader in higher education and research, and was the largest biotech hub as of 2023. So Boston is still continuing strong even to today, of course. Oh yeah, and of course, Boston was then also taken over by lots of Scots in the World Cup, the Tartan Army, and now the English are in Boston. I wonder why the English have to play in Boston. I thought they usually struggle in Massachusetts. So here we go. We're just about 27 nautical miles from Logan International Airport in Boston. So we don't have that much far left to go. So to our left is Boston Stadium. Now, in real life, that's Gillette Stadium, home of the Patriots in the New England Revolution. But that is for the World Cup. It's called Boston Stadium for this year's World Cup. Let's see how many images. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. So yeah, there is Boston Stadium. So we're doing pretty good, guys. Just a little bit more. We get to Boston, and then we'll find someone to rate, of course. Well, yeah, just seeing who's flying along with us and checking that out. So getting ready for the next year sort of stuff. I'm just waiting for schedules. So I think of so we're getting ready for Boston soon. So I was thinking about for the week after the World Cup. So I'm thinking about some interesting matchups, of course. What I want to do. I guess maybe the week after we do the MLS. I was thinking about doing Columbus and Cincinnati, the Hell's Real Derby between the crew, or I can go back to Brazil and do Flamengo and Sao Paulo would be an interesting one. I need to check that out for the week afterwards. Which one? The alternative is baseball again for the 24th. I guess I can do baseball once again and see what's available. Yeah, I guess there is a bunch. I guess it'll have to be soccer again. So, yeah. I'll have to... Then again, it will be the start of the Mexican season, of course. It's also the start of the Danish League? Yeah, the Danish League is also going to start in this one. So I'll see what we do the week after the World Cup finishes and see what I want to pick for the. I'm more waiting for the schedule for La Liga and all the rest because who knows? I might do Espanyol to start the week. Gotta cheer on my favorite European club, Real Club Deportivo Español de Barcelona. Vamos! So here it is, Boston, Massachusetts. Really cool city. If you've never got the chance to visit Boston, there's a lot of things to do in Boston. Lots and lots of things in Boston to do. Tons of performing art events. The food, New England cuisine, clam chowder. The Union Oyster House, the oldest restaurant in the United States, still operating, 1716. Gotta have some oysters. Around here, but yeah, Boston, really, really cool. Um, I've been to Boston twice. Enjoyed both my times in the city. It's a really cool place to visit. Won't be visiting there again next year, but I'll be visiting Boston again next year on a cruise from New York City to Boston. So hopefully we get to check out a bit about Boston. And here's Logan, which is the busiest airport in all of New England. Here it is, guys, the historic home of the Red Sox, Fenway Park. Fenway Park, the home of the Red Sox, here in Fenway. And here is downtown. Downtown Boston, everyone. Here's downtown Boston. And let's go ahead and get to the back. So this is downtown Boston. A bit more in the background. Look at that. So I've been through all this area. Really neat place to explore, of course. So yeah, we're about to fly over Logan. So we're gonna go ahead and land. Your graphics here is always on form. I appreciate it, Shaq. and slowly through this and slowly turn. Here we go, guys. Welcome to Boston Logan. There we go, guys. Welcome to Boston. So there we go, guys. That concludes our last leg of the flight here in Boston Logan. So I hope you guys enjoyed this experience here of this flight. Got to talk a little bit about the Yankees Red Sox, baseball's most legendary rivalry. So I think we're gonna raid someone else. I think we're going to raid Flying Walnut. Actually, we're gonna raid her. So we're gonna raid her. So stick around for the raid, guys. We're gonna be seeing you guys tomorrow in Zurich for an Alps to Adriatic adventure. So take care, everyone, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. And see you all again soon. Goodbye, everyone.